Yeah, I agree. No breadcrumbs. Like they're not fun. I mean, the other thing is a map that you can pick up as an item in
the
level,
overworld.
but then we have to, because there's a couple of ways you can do a mini map, right? You can have a camera directly overhead, which looks weird in this kind of game. Hey.
So here's a little bit of.
Well, hang on. Let me finish what we're saying, then we'll talk about this bug. The other way would be to have a 2D tile map that reads the 3D grid map. Well, it's not actually a grid map, but the 3D tile information turns that into a tile map that is put on a viewport on your screen.
But with another layer on top of it that you have to, your character unpaints. Unpaints? Is that the word? Erases as you go forward. So what's
just draw when you hit it?
So what's that caused by?
Okay, so part of the optimization that I've done here is if you're far enough away from a light source or a particle, in this case 40 meters, if you're more than 40 meters away, they'll just hide things. I've got a thing called player detector. Anything you put as a child of player detector will be hidden if you are 50 meters or 40 meters away. However, we have only one level, so I just made it a cylinder. But I forgot that when you go down the stairs, you go under the cylinder. So it needs to be a sphere.
And there we go. It's a very straightforward solution.
Yep.
So here we have a 5x5 grid. So much smaller.
Could the levels be added to at runtime? I mean, we're doing the whole thing at runtime. But for instance, this room is placed separately during generation. It's not part of the algorithm, which is saying, don't add anything to these two rooms and still connect them, which took a decent amount of code or a decent amount of futzing around with code to get right, because I was finding all kinds of fun bugs. But the exit room is actually tacked on the side. Now, you could...
That is so satisfying.
One thing you could do is you could pick a certain amount of rooms and just remove them before you generate the maze. So what it's doing right now is it's a simple 4x in width, 4z in depth, and just going through every single cell and saying, this is what the cell is. But you could say, okay, now remove these ones, in which case you get a non-square map.
Yeah. I mean, you can't tell what shape it is whilst we're in here. Really.
I mean, all the rooms are square, although there's things we could probably do about that. But we've also made the decision that there's always going to be 4 exits. You know, there is an old school feel to this, which I think makes it feel a little bit retro, even though...
Hey, found a bug.
How'd you do that?
I know, right?
Congrats. I have no idea what that was.
My death. That's what that was.
We're not actually on low poly right now, but we want to go for a low poly ish aesthetic, low poly light, mid poly. But we're still sort of playing around with what we could do to get that aesthetic and make it performant. Right now, these assets aren't quite optimized, but they're pretty solid in terms of performance. Like while Mikey's streaming, he's still hitting a solid 30 frames a second.
It's actually,
he's not streaming.
It's locked 60. To 30 because of the stream.
Okay. He's asked me to unlock it because on his computer it just locks at 60, which is Godot's default lock, and it means it's hard to tell what the performance differences are.
Here we go. Are you ready?
You know, it might be because it doesn't like 5x5.
It's possible. Geronimo!
Do me a favor and try 6x6. Actually, we have to go. So
we could definitely play around with that to our heart's content.
Oh yeah,
that is pretty awesome. Yeah, it's really coming along. I've been able to see the assets and use has changed certain things. Like just playing it in game is not the same as walking through it in first person sort of view within Blender itself. It changes the aesthetic completely.
Having the assets, even at this stage, changes the whole feel and the lighting, because having the extra depth of those arches just adds so much to it.
Sending the spell down there makes a huge difference, and it's a lot of fun sending it down there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we have got over the hour, and I've had a lot of fun. I like how Human Fall Flat, it really does last about an hour for us.
I know.
Perfect.
Good. And we only got ridiculously stuck most of the way through.
Yeah. So the game that we posted about is called
King of the Castle.
King of the Castle. And do you want a quick rundown of that before we finish up, so people who joined us later
King of the
knows
Castle
what's going on?
is an online party game, effectively, where the host, let's say Mikey, plays the monarch. Everyone else joins in either via Steam if they want to buy the game, or via web app, or via phone app. You don't have to buy the game; you can play for free. And if you want to buy the game, it's currently $5 or £4, which is the full price of the game. And what happens is the game takes us through a story. As you join, you are put into one of 3 noble houses, each one of which will, during the story, come up with their own victory conditions and try and work towards them. Meanwhile, Mikey has his victory conditions, which involves having a spouse, having an heir, and doing something else. And every time Mikey tries to pass a law or makes a legal decision, or something happens in your house, you vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
But the game pulls its NPCs from the player list. So we might have a case where there's a trial and Deirdrick accuses Gerard of cheating in a duel, and we have to decide who we're going to believe and what we're going to do about it.
And it's free for everybody to join in. They can actually join in through either a web link for a browser or the app on their phone.
Yep.
So we think that'll be a lot of fun. We do need a minimum number of people, so we'll
It's a small minimum, but
yeah, 4 I think is the minimum. So we will have a look at this in 4 weeks' time and see if we can announce it a bit sooner than the day as well. So people can be ready to join in if they want to.